Hey, delighted to be joined by Nina Turner, former Ohio State Senator. She was the campaign co-chair of Bernie Sanders' 2020 campaign, former president of Our Revolution, and a whole lot of other titles that we don't have time for. How are you doing during these pandemic times?
Jordan, more blessed than most. Thank God for that.
So, to the very, very satisfaction of a lot of progressives in the country, you've announced you're running for the 11th district in Ohio, which Congresswoman Marcia Fudge is currently the congresswoman, but she's been appointed by President Biden to run HUD. So once she is confirmed, assuming she is, then this will be an open seat. Before we get to national politics, I've been to Cleveland a couple times. It's Cleveland, Akron are parts of this district.
Yes.
Can you kind of describe, pre-pandemic and during the pandemic, what are the issues in this district that have been swept under the rug, like so many communities like it?
Yeah, it's one and the same. So I'm glad that you said pre and post or pre and during, because we're not post pandemic. A lot of people think that the challenges that the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class are experiencing are new, but they're not. It's just that COVID-19 exacerbates those. It's almost like somebody that is having a heart attack, and instead of you trying to save their lives, is a boulder on their chest, almost assuring their death. And that is a very visible example that I know that people can relate to. That is what COVID is doing to people who are already poor, among the working poor and the barely middle class. There are about 140 million people in this country who are low income and just flat out poor. 140 million of them. They were suffering before this pandemic. And to quote my grandmother, they are show enough. Grandma's gone to glory, but she would say the word show enough. They are show enough suffering now. And so some of the concerns in my district are the same concerns that I saw all across this country as I carried my district and was blessed to go community to community. It's jobs, increasing the minimum wage. It's healthcare. We know that now over 90 million people are uninsured or underinsured, and the millions of people who have lost their jobs, who had their healthcare connected to their job, have now lost their healthcare. It is in the immediate term, though, Jordan, the complications, especially when it comes to educating one's children. I've talked to so many parents who are now trying to homeschool, and then if you are among the poor, you might not necessarily have the computers necessary, the laptops, the internet connection, just the capacity to be able to help your children be able to keep the educational gains that they have made. So in the short term, it is employment, it is healthcare, and it is also helping parents and other caregivers navigate their immediate needs, education being one of those, being able to educate their children and not being concerned about their children losing ground, if you will.
And I think before the pandemic, parts of Cleveland, Akron have had a 20, 30-year economic pandemic because, frankly, people like Joe Biden, the president, and other Democrats and Republicans sold their jobs to other countries. I mean, Cleveland was like Flint and Detroit and many other major cities responsible for a lot of the building of America. But through trade deals like NAFTA and the proposed TPP deal, a lot of the citizens who used to have good middle class jobs, have now had to switch to working 2 to 3 jobs on top of driving Ubers and things like that. Can you kind of talk about what can Democrats and Joe Biden do? Because he has not spoken out that he will definitively not reintroduce the TPP. But there's a lot of people in the district you want to represent that haven't had full-time jobs for many years because of those trade deals.
Fair trade, Jordan, there's no doubt that one of the reasons why ex-President Trump won Ohio in 2016 was because he had a populist message. It was fake as hell, but he did have that message, and you're absolutely right. The trade deals are definitely disadvantaged, and that's keeping it PG. Many workers in my district and also in this state. The beautiful thing, though, about this horrible moment, having to deal with a fascist president and also the mistakes that Democrats have made along the way when it comes to jobs and trade deal. Democrats, we control both chambers and we control the executive office. And so can right some wrong, can look and reflect on the things that were not in trade deals past and chart a new path. This is the opportunity for the Democratic Party, my party, to deliver for the American people, the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class. That has got to happen. If that does not happen, 2022 is not going to be pleasant for the Democratic Party. But more important than what's pleasant or not pleasant for a party, we got flesh and blood behind these policies, behind those trade deals, people who lost their jobs and their livelihoods. And sometimes, as you know, Jordan, and I know a lot of people who are your viewers, you can have one bad thing happen in your life and it could take you years to recover. I mean, years, and I have faced that myself as an individual. I've watched my parents face that, where it can just take you out. And in order for you to rebound, it's not a year, it's not 2 years. Sometimes it can take you 5, 10 years to rebound, depending on what happened and what is going on in your life. And so this moment right here. There's promise in the problem. And the Democrats, at least for 2 years, we don't know what's going to happen in the midterms, but what we do know is that for the next 2 years, the Democratic Party, this administration, has the opportunity to right some wrongs and to make some crooked paths straight.
And you've been present a couple months before primary elections, general elections, when folks like Joe Biden and other Democrats, they are very consistently showing up at these churches, preaching the good gospel about what they're going to do for black people in America. And then once they're elected, they seem to, lose their direction back to those churches and communities. They seem to not deliver. And frankly, I mean, the numbers are the numbers. Joe Biden's president because black people in Atlanta came out in unprecedented ways. Detroit, Milwaukee, a lot of the areas that they did not come out for Hillary Clinton. Are you seeing anything really that is a focus for black people? In fairness, Biden did just announce increase in food nutrition and food stamps, which is a good thing. But I'm not seeing much. It's only been a day or two, but I haven't seen much yet direct programs for these hurt communities and black Americans that he spoke about during the campaign.
The increase in food stamps, you're absolutely right. That is necessary. It is vital. People need to eat. People need somewhere to live. They have to be secure. So that's good. I'm gonna give kudos to the president. There's so much more that needs to be done. The 100-day plan, and you're right, 1 day, second day. There are many more days within this 100-day window where the president can show that he is going to return in like kind to the African American community that really put him in the office, and by extension, that working class coalition of black people, of Hispanic people, of people of other ethnicities, of young people, of progressives. Let's not forget the progressives who really, really came through to help this ticket become President Biden and Vice President Harris. We need to see more. I want to see marijuana decriminalized and also legalized, and beyond that, I also want to see economic policy put forth so that the African American community is not left out in the cold when it comes to making the money. It is not just enough to decriminalize and legalize. The federal government, along with state governments, have to change the rules of engagement. They are the referees. And so it is unfair to have this industry controlled mainly by a white businessmen. African Americans bore the brunt of going to prison, going to jail, having their entire lives and that of their families and communities disrupted and in some cases destroyed because of the war on drugs. And the Democratic Party has an awesome opportunity to correct that. That would be something that would help the African American community. So some of the things, the executive orders that they've signed, undoing the, making sure that our DACA young people are taken care of, doing away with some of the very good. There's an and to this, Jordan. And there must be things that happen within the next 100 days that is direct, not kind of halfway, not around the corner, but directly impacts and says to the African American community, I see you and thank you for how you came out, showed up, not only to elect President Biden and also Vice President Harris, but showed up again in Georgia and did that. They did that. And now the Democrats are in power, and they must use that power to lift the people who have the greatest needs. And unfortunately, disproportionately, that is the African American community. The 140 million people I speak of, though, are people from all walks of life. It's our white sisters and brothers, our black sisters and brothers, our Hispanic sisters and brothers, our Asian, poor people who are just flat out poor are in that category, but we know disproportionately is African Americans. But in real numbers, it's our white sisters and brothers that are the majority of that number, just in the numbers and not necessarily the percentages. So there's so much work that needs to be done in this next 100 days to show the working people, the poor and the barely middle class of this country, and particularly the African American community, that they're going to get a return on their investment and that they don't have to wait several years to reap the benefits of what they came out to do.
I see a problem. I'm not trying to get you in too much trouble because you're obviously running.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are, Jordan.
I see a problem when you set, now Senator Warnock in Georgia, Biden, they're sending out, campaign stuff. You elect us, you're getting a $2,000 check right out the door, $2,000 check. But that then became a $1,400 check. Now it's becoming, earliest we could do it is in April. That's what neoliberalism is. It's we could only do so much, lowering expectations, making the populace complacent with that lowering of expectations. Frankly, most other countries, a $2,000 check is happening per month, and that's the floor. Many other countries, far less wealthy than us, are doing more than that. From your view, what do you think about? We could only judge it on a few days, but they're already kind of moving back on some of the promises that were made in the run up to that Georgia special election and his campaign promises.
In fact, if what you described, Jordan, holds, which I hope that it does not hold, then it's wrong. That's simple. It's wrong. It's unacceptable. And it cannot stand. American people need relief. Democrats ran on the $2,000. Matter of fact, get the wire transfers going right now. Post haste. What are we waiting for? It'd be one thing if we were in the 90s or we were in a vibrant economy and people were not desperate. This is survival at this point for far too many Americans. Flat out survival. So forget all the okie doke, to use the technical term, and let's get this money to the people. And let's not stop there with this $2,000 that they should have been had. Let's get $2,000 a month. We have the money, as you laid out. Other countries, Japan, our sister, Canada, other industrialized nations are doing much more. We are behind. Imagine a hegemon nation like the United States of America, the wealthiest country on the face of the earth, and the people who are suffering have to grovel to get their money back. Because let's be clear, the money, the relief that we're talking about, that's our money, Jordan. That's your money. That's my money. That is the money of the people who pay taxes in this country. And for our other sisters and brothers who are too poor to pay taxes, you know what? We are all in this together. So the American people deserve relief. It is inhumane and it is unacceptable. And for you and I to be having this conversation when we just a few days from the birthday of the great Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., and also the national holiday where we have so many politicians quoting the Reverend, but don't have the intestinal fortitude to be a doer of the deeds that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was fighting for and talking about. It's unacceptable, Jordan, and it cannot stand. It just cannot. And I'm heartbroken over it.
I want to ask you, I'm not asking you to get in a fight with anybody, but there's been a big battle royale in the progressive sandbox over the last few weeks over forced to vote. A lot of names being called on all sides, sellout, frauds. I don't really participate in that, but I want to ask you, if elected, by my math right now, Nancy Pelosi as House Speaker has a narrow, I think it's 4 or 5 seat majority. Progressives in the House, obviously the Progressive House Caucus is about 100, but let's just say capital P progressives have about 9 or 10 right now. I think 9 or 10 in a unified bloc whether it's Medicare for all or other priorities, can frankly make demands of House Speaker Pelosi, which frankly, you look at the UK Parliament, you look at other governments, that's just common practice. If you, based on the numbers, you negotiate or make demands based on your leverage, your power. But it seems like that has not happened yet among the progressives in the House. If you come in, do you think it's a radical concept that they say, no, we're not giving you votes for X, Y, and Z unless you give us, A, B, and C?
I mean, that's how the political business is done. No, it's not radical. It's right on time. People are dying and losing their livelihoods. And I'm not the best at using analogies, but let me just say that if I want your viewers to think about if they were drowning. Do you want somebody to say, I'll get to you in March or I'll get to you in April? If you are drowning, you need somebody to jump in there right now, radically jump in there and save your life. That is the moment that we are in with the ravages of this global pandemic that has not been tamed yet. It has not been tamed yet. So imagine that you were drowning even before the pandemic. And I mean, man, you going over and over again, and you need somebody to jump the hell into the water and save you. That's the moment that we're in right now. And yes, the progressives should leverage. Absolutely, they should. And the Congressional Black Caucus and the Progressive Caucus all together. I mean, can you imagine? I can imagine this. Like, I've been playing this over in my head that I would love to see all of those caucuses come together to say we are going to do what is right, not what is. But this should be easy too. But I'll just say let's do what's right and not necessarily politically convenient. But it should. In this case, though, Jordan, I can't even. This is right, and it is politically correct to say that you're going to save the American people. I don't understand what the what is the problem. I don't understand. This just does not compute for me. So I just have this wild vision in my head that the progressive and the Congressional Black Caucus will come together and say, you know what? In the words of Fannie Lou Hamer, enough is enough. We about to deliver this right here. Don't know what else is going to happen, but this right here, we're going to deliver for the American people. It has to happen.
And last question. This isn't your first rodeo. You see what the media did to Senator Sanders in 2016, 2020. You see what the DNC did. And frankly, it might not be a presidential contest, but once Congresswoman Fudge is confirmed and this election starts drawing more media attention, my safe bet is some of these national media figures are going to treat this Ohio district race as a national race because of one person who's in it, and that would be you. It's a simple question. Are you prepared for that? And what could people do during this pandemic? Obviously, door knocking is not as simple now. But what could people do to not allow the media disinformation, the propaganda? I'm sure they'll go back all the way to when you were a kid and the cookie jar. What can people do so that you have a fair shot at winning this seat, the 11th district seat in Ohio?
And that's all we're asking for is fairness. I'm asking for the voters of my district and also the people of this nation to judge me by the body of work. Nobody is perfect. I certainly have not had a perfect path, but I have been committed all of my life from my upbringing to this moment to serve, not just in elected capacity, but to be motivated to be motivated by pushing for what is right, just, and good for the least of these, our sisters and brothers. So no matter what the media is going to try to throw at me, I want folks to understand my record: a daughter of Cleveland, a Cleveland City Councilwoman, a mother, a wife, a sister, raised in this district, having been in all three categories that you and I have been talking about. I have been poor. I've been among the working poor. I've been among the barely middle class. I had a mother who died at the very young age of 42 years old with her dreams deferred. 7 children. I'm the oldest, having to take that on. First generation college graduate, still paying off college debt, have made mistakes financially, have been climbing and climbing and trying to get it right on behalf of my family and by extension, be an asset to my community and to this nation. Not perfect, nobody is. So when they come, just remember all of the work and my whole body of work. What people can do, Jordan, is the most important: time, talent, and treasure. That is what progressive candidates like me who are going against the grain, who are not going to equivocate for what we believe in, who I can work with anybody, because that's another thing they want to throw at me. I can work with anybody, but I don't acquiesce to anybody. Working with does not mean acquiescing to. And when my residents send me there, if I am so blessed to serve this community, they're sending me there to serve, to be of service to them, and not to necessarily kowtow to. I'll say it this way: I don't worship at the feet of any man or any woman. I don't worship at the feet of any of a party. Yes, I am a Democrat, but I am a Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm type Democrat, unbought and unbossed. I am a Fannie Lou Hamer type Democrat, sick and tired of being sick and tired. And even in Fannie Lou Hamer's day, when she coalesced with her or collaborated with her white contemporaries who were sick and tired of the status quo of their day and formed the Freedom Party. All folks got to do is go back there. That was, you talking about being patriotic. You talking about loving a party so much so that you're going to get together with other poor people, white poor people, and say, we're not going to take this anymore. And we're going to come together and create a different party because the Democratic Party is not doing right by our poor people. I am a Congressman Lewis Stokes or Mayor Carl B. Stokes or Senator Howard Metzenbaum type of Democrat. So if people want to know, that's the type of Democrat I am. How can people help? Time, talent, and treasure. Yes, we cannot necessarily go door to door the way we could before COVID, but we're going to do some things, and we're going to do it very safely. Things that people can do from the safety of their home, whether it's making calls, whether it's text messaging. So please, and donating. Our average donation right now, Jordan, is $26. I have been so humbled and heartened by the fact that the very people that you and I discuss and have discussed from the moment we met in your work as a journalist and my work as a modern day freedom fighter, those very people who are suffering and were suffering before this pandemic are the ones that are fueling this campaign. And I want to say thank you to those people. The average donation is $26. And so I just need people to give what they can. If it's $3, $5, $11. And then if you can't give money, to sign up and volunteer to help our campaign. And they can go to ninaturner.com to. When I am elected, not only am I elected to serve my district, but everything that a federal representative does by extension impacts the entire nation. And I want the people who support this campaign to know, the people who live in my district who will give me the privilege to serve, and also the people who are living vicariously through the people of my district to know that when I win this race, this is their race too. When I go through the halls of Congress, I am carrying with me their hopes, their dreams, their fears, and also their possibilities with me to the people's house.
And I forgot one last question. On the campaign trail, will you be sporting Bernie's mittens?
Without a doubt, baby. You know, I ain't one for mittens, but the senator did that. All the memes rule and order some mittens. Yes, I support Senator Sanders' mittens.
Isn't that interesting? The media loves him now that he's not a threat. Look at that. All right. Thank you.
Well, he's the chair. Now, come on now, Jordan. He's the chair of the budget committee. Don't sleep on that.
That's true. That's true.
Because let's face it, I've worked in the mainstream media and been blessed to do so. Glad to be a progressive. I think progressives should be in every space. In the mainstream media space, they should be in corporate boardrooms. We need to be everywhere, preaching and preaching the gospel, what needs to be done that is right, just, and good. But I just got to commend you. You, from the beginning of the Flint crisis, have been there, and you are still there, even though again, quote my grandmother, but not many people are talking about this issue. It has seemed to have disappeared, but the pain that the citizens of Flint, Michigan are feeling are not going anywhere anytime soon. And some of that pain is going to be generational. And so I just want to take the time to commend you for being in that fight, even if it is not, it hasn't been fun, it hasn't been pleasant. You are like a voice in the wheel, continuing to hold up and to discuss what is happening to our sisters and brothers in Flint. It could have happened anywhere in this country, but it happened in Flint, and it is disproportionately impacting the Black community. And I just want to thank you. I want to be one. There are many people, I'm sure, who thank you all the time, but I want to thank you for your investigative work and continue to push it. And what you and I believe that there's going to be a day of reckoning because of somebody like you and what you're doing. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. And by the way, if the truth is not exposed in Flint, then places like Cleveland, which have significant lead problems, will not get attention either. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. You can follow her at the website she just gave, and we'll be in touch. Thank you, Senator Turner.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.